All right. Thank you for staying with the Monday Report Townhall session. A lot of feedback is coming through. I'll try to squeeze in as many of them as I can on 22422 as SMS line. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV, use the hashtag Monday Report. So John Karugu says, I think the biggest problem is that most students fail to understand what employers are looking for. No one will employ you simply because you have a master's degree. Employers want a solution to their problems. You must prove this before you get hired. Many of us just want jobs for a salary. Our mindsets are wrong. See yourself as a product. Sell yourself out there. Show what you can do. Tell the world what problem you can solve. I think the biggest paradox is that we have so many employers who cannot find the right fit for their companies, yet so many are unemployed. I can tell you this from my experience. That's John Karugu. And we also have Catherine here. Catherine Riungu from Tarakaniti says, what a discussion. It's very disappointing that our universities are more interested in making money than growing skills. That and a stagnant economy is wasting our youth. Time to retrace where we lost the plot. Then we also have Wekesa here, who says, Trevor, please stop lying. Who said getting a degree, you must be employed? Education is supposed to open your mind to possibilities and transform that education into something else. This mentality that you are perpetuating is actually the problem right there. Our problem is transformation, translation, and transfer on what we learned and can do without it. I want to hear from the graduates down here. The school you went to is supposed to open your mind so that you create employment and not wait to be employed. What do you say to people like Wekesa?
My name is Bernard.
Hold the microphone closer to your mouth.
My name is Bernard Omondi.
Yeah.
I graduated in economics and statistics at the University of Nairobi. I think education in Kenya has become of more business for the government and the private sector. I think somebody needs to come up and regulate the trade-off between making money and coming up with graduates who are relevant to the problems that we face in our economy. But maybe to Daktari, we need to ask ourselves, who came up with the issue of formal education? Who designed it for example, Kenyans? Because in my opinion, education is one way of killing our talents as human beings. Because as human beings, God created us with some unique capabilities. And because of capitalism and selfish interest of the capitalists, we come up with syllabuses and education systems to kill our talents so that we create slaves that we can hire cheaply. And that is really dehumanizing, especially Africans. That's what we need to solve.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Isaac Barasa from the Strathmore Business School, and I find the last comment very irresponsible. Why? Because when the guy talks about us looking for employment, to be looking for alternatives to employment, then he's talking about self-employment or entrepreneurship. You find in this country that when you want to start a business, for example, as a youth, you have very little capital in this shrunk economy. You're supposed to pay presumptive tax. You're supposed to pay, which is 15% of the trading license. There's this turnover tax. And there are countless things that are actually disincentivizing youths from actually running a successful business. You get my point? You go to look for tenders there, but there are people in there. Or you open a company, go look for tenders, but there are people who know the people in power, so they control these things. You get my point? You're not able to get this tender. Why? Because you ask for pre-qualifications, all those things that you're not supposed to be asked as a youth. Remember, these things are very costly. So they've made it very deliberate for the youth to be at their beck and call, so that they can be using them in political campaigns. Yet they want to blame the youth as not being able to work in the job market. I think that's a very irresponsible statement from a person who is acting like as if he's living from a different kind of
planet
life. Yeah.
All right. You have the microphone back there. Anza na jina tafadhali and tell us what you think the issue is here.
Thank you. Jina yangu Miano Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Volunteer. My concern is, in human race, the best thing you can give human being is hope. And I can feel the hope is being eluded here. It's both eroded to parents who are struggling too much to cater for this education. It's being eroded to the students themselves. it's also being eroded to the lecturer themselves because they are seeing what the end product they expect to get from the institutions is not coming out, or it's not being utilized the way they want. My concern is, how are the guys like the professor there in the senior management level advising the policy makers to at least make, even if you could have 2 courses that are too practical to our economy, and lessen the burden to the parent of going to too much cost of taking a child to a master's level and to end up just going back to the streets. We are losing some of these young girls there to people who don't even have a course. My numbers for a lack of a better examples. And with all the investment you have had for that girl or the Daktari herself, you would feel very bad as a parent once you have lost all that resource. It could have been better. You could have bought her a matatu and let her take care of the business. It's frustrating.
All right. Dr. Maria, you start with us. Well, what is your advice to the policymakers? Now we're getting into the advice session.
Yeah, I think number one is governance, right? This is mostly a governance issue, because there already is a body that is charged with trying to find out program planning, right? So that body should be able to advise all the universities, when they bring their, curriculum, when they are developing their curriculum. So like you said, the biggest thing is relevance. I think we all agree it is relevance. Like you say, there are so many teachers, right? English teachers. We don't have a computer teacher. I'll give a practical example. I live outside the country, and my father is growing old, right? I need help with my father because I'm not there every day. And I'm sure there are hundreds of people who need help with their fathers or their parents, their aging parents. That's a large group. And there's nobody who is qualified to be a home health aide or somebody who is qualified to be a nurse, there are people who would be willing to pay for those people. Those courses are not offered. That's simple. That's basic, right? There are a lot of people in Kenya who now, they want to be able to have some time, and not be able to spend a lot of time doing the cooking and other things. We don't have a lot of people who have been trained in order to be able to say, you know what, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a dietitian, and I'm a cook. I know all these things I would be able to advise. So you are you don't have, I can advise you on your diet, I can spend time explaining to you. Those people are seen as though they are outside the mainstream of formal education. They are seen as things that are outside. And yet, those are the needs that we actually have. I spend a lot of time with the elderly people, trying to explain to them about the phone, right? I'm not an expert in technology. Why wouldn't that be a niche that somebody would be able to train people who will work with these people about the small mechanisms of phones, basics, and understanding in the rural area, right? In the back home. Not everybody who has a phone is in the city. If I need to have my phone fixed, I have to travel 50 miles to get the phone fixed. Why can't I have somebody? Why can't we train? So I think those are the things that we need to start to think about. What do we really need? And we can do that through research, right? What are the things that are the gaps that are in the society, and start to train people about that. The other thing I think is the big thing, and I was talking about this during the break, is our attitude as Kenyans, right? We have an issue with class. Everybody thinks we are important. You have to have a tie. You have to speak in a certain way. You must drive a certain car. If you went to school, if you have a degree, you cannot go cook in a kitchen which is smoke, where there is smoke. You cannot socialize with particular kinds of people. And that is a big hindrance. When we start to think about people in grades, you say, oh, the one walking down there is a C+. This one walking here is an A. This one is a B. Then we are actually losing it. Okay. Because then you give that person that you put them in a cocoon, and you will not allow them to grow, to do something else. They expect to be a B. That's a lot of pressure, right? I might be a B in math, and I'm a D in something else, or I'm an A in something else. But now since you've labeled me as a B, then I have to stick to trying to do many little things that I'm not good at to stay at a B. While I could just focus on one thing that I am good at, I'm an A, without a lot of problems.
Okay.
Specialization, which we had, Professor had talked about before.
Yeah, you think that's a good idea, specialization, so that each university is known for something.
Yeah, well, I'll give the example of Egerton. Egerton, we were the first group that went there to do social sciences. Egerton was known all over Africa as an agricultural college that was really revered, and producing, and they had gone through the learning steps, the problems of understanding agriculture, and they were at a very good place, in teaching agriculture. Then all of a sudden, the government throws them a curveball. Oh, teach these social science people. Now they have to start all over again now to learn the process of, teaching social sciences at the expense of agriculture.
Of what they were actually really good at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Mine is a concern. In the year 2012, the government of Moi Kibaki, under two ministries, the Ministry of Vision 2030 and Planning, began two schools. The School of Economics in the University of Nairobi, under the School of Economics and Statistics, and the School of Economics and Finance in Kenyatta University. Now, these two schools were initiated with an aim. Under the Ministry of Vision 2030 and the Planning, there was supposed to be an yearly turnover of economists, which had a long-term plan of boosting this country's economy. But as we have said, the country has a problem. Because those people who got there, actually it was 2008, sorry. We were the first pioneers there. We graduated in the year 2012. After graduating in the year 2012, 2013, we ushered in a new government. So the people who began this school had projections for it. But then the new government which came in 2013 put that all away. The Vision 2030 was reduced to a parastatal. Planning was never there. Now we have economists running all over the country, economists who are working as journalists, economists who are hawkers, and right now the country is suffering an economic regression. Now it is not a must that these people to be absorbed in the economy, but then these people that we are out here with that economic knowledge, we've been doing analysis, we've been seeing, we've continued with research, we've enrolled for other programs, but then you feel that what you are out there and what was initiated by the government to be undertaken was actually never ever realized. The reason as to why it was never realized, you don't know. So what we have is that a government starts a project with a name, and then it brings it in the university. Now realize when it was started here, it went for nearly 3 months without lecturers, because they started it, but they didn't have the manpower to propel it moving forward. So what I can say is that the one thing that the government seems to be doing is creating a scenario whereby students get educated and they get enough education, telling them that education is key to success. After that, they come back and tell the students, actually, as you've read there, that actually we were not educating you to give you jobs. And they go back to the parents and tell the parents, your students are very lazy because it is not a must for them to get employed. Let them do even jobs that they were not. But let me ask you a question. If you didn't have to undergo the 4 years that you are in the university, if you had to go to the universities to have a trolley of selling smokies, you don't need to go to the university to know that. So maybe that money which is normally given under the help, if you are given and told to refund that money by selling smokies, believe you me, we could have refunded that money by now. We could have refunded that money by now. But then now you went to the university, you are out there, you are fed with the notion that you are supposed to be somewhere giving policy advice, but it is never happening. And then on top of that, there is a help loan which is waiting for you to pay it back. I think it's time we balance these things, that we don't have to undergo very many years in school. We can undergo short years in school. If it is not educative, it's not helpful, then give that money for people, because in schools, you don't buy brains. Brains are in us. And you can still be able to do them. After all, the biggest people in the world, they didn't have to undergo. Some of them left college and they are still making it.
All right, you also have the microphone there. I'm taking final comments really fast. But Jesse Mwangi on Twitter says, Mwangi Jason, says, many of us just want jobs for a salary. Our mindsets are wrong. Tell the world what problem you can solve. I think the biggest paradox is that we have so many employers who cannot find the right fit for their companies, yet so many are unemployed. And just I'd like you to also comment about this after him. Go ahead, just make your comment, and then Chesa, you'll talk about this issue where everybody seems to be pointing fingers at the people who don't have jobs, saying they're supposed to have figured out how to solve a problem and be a solution to the market, because there are many people looking for employees but they can't find. Go ahead, very briefly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm Odhiambo Justus. I think the government at some point is not going right, because you can see that the political class and the well-being that is in terms of finance, they have opted to invest outside the country instead of investing here, at least to create their job opportunities for the youth.
All right. And on that note, I think I need to take a quick break, then come back and take final comments from Chesa and my panelists as well here, and maybe one or two more people. Edwin says, I did animal science and management, and I have been loitering around looking for a job that can fit my career since 2016. Now I've landed a job as a helper in a hardware just this year. So that's where I am right now. And this is Brian. He says there's a new trend nowadays in which companies and organizations advertise job positions just as a formality, while they're very well known that they already have people for that position. Second, there's this problem in which people hold offices for 20 to 30 to even 40 years, and yet universities are churning out graduates every year who could take up those same positions, adding to the clog of unemployment. There's also that argument that people should retire much earlier and leave space for other people. That we'll also talk about as we wind up. The education nowadays is a scam. A lecturer who's employed will teach you about entrepreneurship, while he himself cannot quit the job and start the business he's lecturing you about. There are very many serious concerns here. But let's take that quick break, then we come back.